content that stays on brand, that delivers message, that engages audience. AI's role is really that assistant. I don't think we're replacing anything. To be candid, I think we're inventing something new. The end-to-end video production for businesses. Make an ad for my so-and-so widget that does XYZ. In 3 minutes, you're going to get your first preview. The bottleneck is either making stuff or cutting down stuff. Human in the loop is going to be required for a long time. Faceless or headless YouTube videos, that trend has really been surging. They can make stuff in minutes instead of weeks. Over 200 voices in, I think, 13 different regional dialects. How Canva has taught us all we can all be our own graphic designer and let us all be our own layout manager. Like, there's a lot of stuff in AI that doesn't really work.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of AllAboutAI.com exclusive interview series. Today we have Jeremy Torman, founder of Augie Studio. In this conversation, we'll explore how Augie's journey, the role of AI in simplifying business video creation, and how this innovative tool is empowering businesses to create stunning videos in just minutes. Let's get started.
Starting from your background, what initial problem inspired you to create Augie Studio, and how did your previous experiences at Warner Media influence your approach to simplifying video creation?
Great question. So my background, as you know, is 30 years in the tech media convergence space. Mm-hmm. And to be candid, most of my time has been spent on sort of the end stage, whether it's a consumable device or app or experience to watch or engage with media. This one actually happened because of a personal need. So I was at Warner Media, and I was trying to learn video editing. I had a video I wanted to make for my podcast, actually. I had one of those pandemic podcasts with a friend. Right. That meme, by the way, that's going around, we talk about movies, but we make jokes about it. That was us. We were exactly that. And I kept reading articles about why video trailers is the best way to grow a podcast. So I figured, well, I'm at Warner Media. I was at CBS. I've been at all these companies. I should be able to do all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Nope. The learning curve was off the charts. Maybe I'm an old dog, but when I started talking to people, it turns out that I'm far from the only person with the struggles to make video. And the other thing I sort of learned with that is it's specifically related to business video creation, right? If you want to be an influencer, go get CapCut. It's amazing, right? And then you can do whether it's like, hey, buy this shirt, I love it, or smash that like button. All that kind of world is well served. But the needs of businesses, and I don't care if you're talking about like a mom and pop shop all the way up to Fortune 1 company, the needs of businesses are the same. Content that stays on brand, that delivers message, that engages audience. And that's not always going to be an influencer style video. So we built Augie to address that market opportunity and market need of everyday people going about their business needing videos for what they do. So it does happen to tie in to my career, but it also came out of a personal use.
Oh, that's amazing, actually inspiring. How does Augie Studio democratize video creation for businesses? They may not have the time or resources for complex video editing.
Great question. So what we've learned is two things. You either have no video assets or tons, right? So everybody's in one of those two camps. And what that means is that the bottleneck is either making stuff or cutting down stuff. Augie lets people easily do either. So if you have nothing, we have a partnership with Getty Images that gives our users commercial license to Getty assets. So you can build together a video that uses a combination, your logo, your materials, your assets with Getty, high quality premium content to let that all go together. Or you might have, say, long interviews like this one, or footage of your CEO up on stage doing something great. And you need to take that footage and make it social ready. That, again, you run into these massive bottlenecks. So what Augie does in both cases is we use your words as your primary navigator, which means whatever your transcript is, whether that's your new script for an ad or your old script for a video, we let you use those words to cut things down, make those edits super, super easy, and then off you go and produce your videos.
Fair enough. Can you share how Augie's AI-based video creation tool work, especially how it automatically matches words to relevant images and clips?
Sure. So let's go through the whole flow. So the first thing you have is some kind of script, right? Now, what Augie does, that could be you recording yourself like a webcam. It could be just an audio recording like a podcast, or you could have a typed up script. Whatever happens next is if you have typed only, you can record it in Augie or use AI voices. We have a few hundred AI voices, all commercially licensed so that they're not they're not celebrities. But you can use any of these AI voices to get to a narration. Once you have that narration, Augie uses AI to generate a transcript automatically. So again, whether that's your words or an AI voice, now we have a transcript. What we then do is we break up the transcript into sort of, if you've ever seen, so if you're listening to this, if you've ever seen a storyboard or a timeline view of any form of video editing, Augie does the same thing. But what Augie does is in the storyboard, we analyze the words that were spoken for each segment and then compare those words either against your own clip library or Getty's to find something that matches the visual description. So if you want to talk about walking the streets of New York, if you have footage that you've been, walking down the streets of New York, we will use computer vision to match that against the segment. If you don't have that footage, we'll go find something from Getty's catalog and put that in instead. So our AI uses the spoken word, the narration overall, and the visuals to match things together.
Makes sense. Amazing. I think it sounds very easy. I'll definitely give it a try. So what were the significant challenges your team faced in getting the prototype of Augie Studio in a working shape? How did you overcome that?
Sure. We spent a lot of time on it. We did an extended beta of about 18 months. And basically those challenges were figuring out what our users really wanted. So early on, I'll be pretty transparent, our matching algorithms weren't that great. You'd say, I want a video about, I don't know, skiing. And every now and then there'd be a clip of someone surfing or mountain climbing or something that just didn't make any sense. So we did a lot of iteration to make that better. Other things we found is users wanted faster sharing capability. So let's say you're making a quick video, you just want to show it to your boss for approval. Right? In our old version, you'd have to download that and then figure out how to get it to someone, maybe on Slack or Dropbox. Now you can just one-click share that to someone. So I've got a dozen or so examples of things that, we started in one way. We watched what our users were doing, listened to their feedback, and then either made it much, much better, made it easier, or in some cases removed functionality that people just weren't really using. So we've been really focused on candidly just listening to our users to make sure we're building the product what they want. And our focus, by the way, just to be really clear, is the end-to-end video production for businesses, right? And that doesn't mean we aren't in use by like a podcaster, but if I think about it, a podcaster is a business, right? Even if it's someone's side hustle, it's still, a business. And so they have needs that are just plain different from consumer needs. So we spent all of our time really kind of honing in on what that use would be.
You're talking about, you said end-to-end solution. So, but you mentioned that I have to give my script to it. So what if I don't have a script? I just have an idea. Okay, this is the product launch of my brand, and I just want a quick video of it. So does that entertain as well by Augie?
Absolutely. You can literally start with a prompt like, make an ad for my so-and-so widget that does XYZ. You can point our scriptwriter at your web page. Now we use OpenAI service. We use OpenAI service for that. So if you're preventing crawling from any of the AI bots, then we can't do that. But basically, we'll generate a script for you if you need it. Our approach has been at every stage of the process to use AI to assist a user who doesn't know how to do a thing. So if you know how to write a script, but say don't know how to do the video part, Augie's AI does that for you. If you don't know how to write a script, but you have a pretty good sense of what visuals you want, then Augie will just write the script for you. So we look at it that AI's role is really that assistant kind of role where the importance of video and video marketing and video branding, a human in the loop is going to be required for a long time. And I'm not negative on anything AI. I'm as bullish as can be, but it takes a while to really get that sense of like what a brand's assets need to be, right? A brand isn't comfortable missing the color by one hex code or a typo or a weird font rendering. If you think about whatever, and I don't care if you're a mom and pop shop, all the way up to massive company, whoever you are, you've probably got that brand centered way of thinking about building your business. We think it's super important to be able to adhere to that. So our AI use is specifically to kind of get you to that leveled playing field.
Okay, makes sense. So, how do you ensure that Augie's video editing tools cater to both beginners and, of course, the experienced creators while keeping the process efficient and intuitive?
So I'll sort of answer that in reverse. So our more experienced users, so people who might have some background in video editing, they use Augie primarily as early prototyping, right? The neat thing in Augie is you can give it a script and in 3 minutes, you're going to get your first preview, right? And so our advanced people who know how to use, say, Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve or some of those tools, what they like in Augie is quick prototype, right? They're going to go off and do the rest of the work in another tool, and that's fine with us. The other end of the spectrum is the people who have no skills whatsoever, in which case we give you a rough draft and basically as of that moment, try not to geek out too much on video editing, but the thing to think about is video editing is a non-linear style of thinking, right? So linear thinking is A, then B, then C, then D, which is what we think video is. But there's so many other layers to that, like assets on screen, camera angles, when do shots start and finish? When does something zoom in? What kind of transition effect? It requires a lot more cognitive overhead. And that's why we all get overwhelmed the moment we hit any of these video tools. Augie's made it so that you can't do that, for lack of a better phrase. We only have a linear flow in Augie. You see your transcript at all times. So you're never trying to figure out, how do I align clip A and clip B and do this thing? It's more a matter of saying, when I say the words, welcome to my podcast, show this visual. When I say the words, today we're going to be talking about AI, show this visual. If I want to change the timing, I use the words, not, for example, a waveform, right? If you've ever done any video editing, you always see those waveforms, which, again, a nerd like me knows what to do with. But for most people, it's like, what the hell is all this? And so we've just tried to make that radically simpler.
Yeah, that's amazing, actually. So, with hundreds and thousands of users creating video using Augie Studio, what have been the most surprising use cases you've seen so far?
Early in our days in the beta, we had this guy who was using it to turn his he had like a storytelling like an original story podcast, and he started using Augie to make video versions that would go with it, and which we've always loved as a use case. It's just that his content was particularly like original and creative, and it was just one of those things that was like, it was, we could never have envisioned that, our mindset is help business. And so this guy was doing this super creative thing on our platform, and we were watching him, following along what he was doing. And it was cool to see. And I never would have envisioned that. I think the other area that's been interesting is on faceless or headless YouTube videos. That trend has really been surging. And candidly speaking, it's one of the things that's really easy to do in Augie. And so we've seen a tremendous amount of use in sort of that vertical application. Now, some of that is making vertical videos for YouTube channels, and some of it's making for companies. So we're seeing it sort of all over the map in that case.
I see. So it's more of I would call it's more of a marketing tool, not an editing. So does Augie Studio help with the editing as well? Like, for example, if I am an experienced video creator and I just have the preview and I just want to make some changes, like the practical changes with my hands, like the manual changes. So can be possible in the Augie Studio, sir?
We have a light amount of editing. It depends really what you're trying to do. If you're literally just trying to trim down some existing clips, there are much faster ways for doing that. We look at it as sort of the full end-to-end studio where, the goal is that you start with a whole project in mind, and you may or may not use Augie to get the video to the point where you're producing or prototyping or sampling. So it's a good question. Sometimes I'm going to say yes, but sometimes not. I think it really will come down to the specific nuance of what kind of edit you're trying to make. So here's a good example. Let's say you have this podcast, right? So after we're done recording, you want to make a podcast trailer for this episode.
Yeah.
Well, you could upload the whole podcast to Augie. It'll generate the whole transcript, and then you just pick out the words you want, and you're like, there's my trailer. So that would take you literally 3 minutes to do an Augie. Whereas if you've already got that and you want to cut out this 1 second bit in the middle somewhere, Premiere or even iMovie would be faster for a feature like that.
Makes sense. So given the rise of AI generated content, how does Augie balance automation and creativity, ensuring authenticity in video production?
So good question, buddy. I think we look so one sort of like, again, I set up a lot of these questions, but if you think about it, every video has one of 3 kinds of assets. It's either your own stuff you've recorded, maybe with your phone or with a camera, whatever. Stock media, so again, Getty or Storyblocks or Pexels or one of those, or generated media, right? So whether that's Runway or Flicky or Pika or one of those. Augie is there to help you assemble all of that content into the overall flow and narrative you want. So as an example, if you wanted to use generative AI to generate a 30-second commercial, realistically, what you're doing is generating 10 3-second clips or 15 2-second clips, and then you're stitching them all together. And so the generative feature, we have one built in, but candidly, I think that's an area that there's so much growth and change happening that we're actually seeing our users go off to Runway, go off to Flicky, go off to one of these tools, do their generative work there. Same thing with like Synthesia or DID, where they might make a virtual avatar, and then they bring that into Augie to sort of assemble the final footage. So I love the idea that the creatives can go off and create whatever they have in mind. And Augie really actually encourages them to make it easier to stitch that vision together. I think we're pretty committed to human in the loop for a long time. So to us, the human's what really brings the creativity. And so I think that's always paramount for us.
Oh, that's interesting. So can you share some feedback from businesses that have transformed their video marketing strategies using Augie Studio?
Absolutely. We have a major publisher. They're able to turn articles into video using Augie and have like journalists do the work and not their video production team do the work. And they're happy about that because the journalists can spend, like whoever is the writer can do the video work in Augie in about 10 minutes. And now there's no more bogging down a production team to do like, sort of disposable kind of video. So that's one example. We have a couple of other publishers and media outlets that are using Augie with their creative ads teams. So what they're able to do is go to their customers or potential customers and make them ads that they couldn't make before. When I worked, for example, back at CNET, we had a whole creative ad production team because we'd have brands, huge brands like Samsung and tiny brands like little startups, and they all wanted to advertise because CNET's like the number one outlet for tech. And so we had our own production team that could make an ad for a potential advertiser. Obviously, that's still huge bottleneck, huge cost structure involved. So we've got a couple of companies now that are using Augie for that purpose, and they're basically, everyone's telling us the same thing. They're able to make more videos with more of their team with less overall overhead. And so we're really excited about that. And then we have a couple of media streamers that are using it. When you're watching, whether it's Netflix or Hulu or Prime or whatever, and there's those like 15-second looping promos for each show. Having worked with those teams before, that is a bear of work, right? The average production time for a movie trailer is 2 weeks. So we're having a couple of those kind of studios using Augie because they can make stuff in minutes instead of weeks. So those are a few of our favorite examples. A lot of ad agencies where, again, whether it's the full end-to-end or just getting the prototypes in place, but a lot of agencies are using Augie for their purpose too.
Oh, that's amazing. Actually, interesting to know these stories. So, how does Augie integrate new trends, like for example, AI video generation, automated editing workflows, to stay competitive in the market?
I think we're always paying attention to where we think the puck is going. There's an old quote, skate where the puck is going to. And so we use a combination of our own users. We're constantly asking them, what do they need? What do they want? What are they investing in? What do they like in AI? What don't they like? And so we're using that a lot. Plus, candidly, it's as big and as fast as the industry is growing. You can sort of watch the trends as they cycle through. So in our world, we're less focused on kind of, whose LLM is outperforming who others. It's interesting to some, but it's not for us. For us, it's more watching what are the capabilities around everything from script generation to content identification, streaming, et cetera. So the best example I have is when 11 Labs launched, we all of a sudden recognized, oh, you could voice a script for someone who's never done that before, right? Like maybe I don't want Augie's ads to be in my voice, right? Like, like as much as I'm proud of what I do as a founder and everything, I'm not convinced I have like the best, voice for making a promo video, right? So part of what we saw there is this opportunity to let Augie be more useful to more people, but also represent more people so that we have more. For example, we have over 200 voices in, I think, 13 different regional dialects of American English. So we have people with British accents, with historically Indian accents, with historically urban accents, with Latin accents. And so we're letting brands kind of have their voices be whatever they want to be. And that came all out of just us noticing this cool startup launched. So we tend to be, try to be very creative about how we're looking at the future, but also stay grounded with what our users really want.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, how do you get, like you said, different dialects in English? So, no other language other than English?
Coming soon. We're working to add language packs because what we want to do is let you, if you're going to make an ad, you want to make it international or et cetera. The interesting part is the translation technology at this point has gotten pretty impressive. Yeah. More of our focus is making sure our user experience will be seamless. So, the difference with languages, and if you think about like how I'm trying to come up with an idea on the spot, but like a phrase in English might be very different in Spanish or in French or in whatever. And so if I'm talking about, I don't know, the importance of wearing a helmet while going bike riding, right? Well, in French, it might be, the verb noun structure is different. True. So the same video flow might not actually work just as perfectly in other languages. So we're trying to figure out right now, how do we create a really satisfying experience for users while giving high quality video? Because again, our customers, like, they don't just want it to sort of work, they want the actual end-to-end, right? We don't have any opportunity to be like, there's a lot of stuff in AI that doesn't really work, and we all know it. We don't have that luxury, right? Like if we build a feature, it has to do exactly what we said it's going to do.
I see. So do you envision AI video tools like Augie replacing traditional video production studios in the future?
I don't think we're replacing anything. To be candid, I think we're inventing something new. The way it's even in the way I pitch investors is at one end of the spectrum, you've got personal branding tools, CapCut, TikTok, iMovie. At the other end of the spectrum, you have pro tools, Premiere Pro, Avid, Resolve. They're both perfect at what they do, but neither are good for business users. So Augie's trying to be something different and new. And so we don't see us supplanting either side of those equations, but really almost more like how Canva has taught us all we can all be our own graphic designer, and Figma has let us all be our own layout manager. We want Augie to let everyone be their own video storyteller.
I see. Makes sense. So how do you address concerns about AI being used to produce harmful and misleading video content like deep fakes? We have all heard of it these days as a political because of the elections thing. So what do you how do you address such concerns? What do you have concern about it?
We're on the side of transparency and disclosure,
Mhm.
because right now Augie doesn't do native generation. We haven't needed to add any labels. As those technologies go into our product, we absolutely will. So if, for example, we allow voice cloning, but the only way you can do voice cloning with Augie is with an active microphone. So you can't upload the voice of a presidential candidate, for example, and make a fake video in Augie. It won't work. So we are taking a lot of proactive steps to ensure the platform is used transparently. But as of this moment, it hasn't actually been a concern because the only real generative capability is on the voicing.
As Augie continues to grow, what key features or developments do you see being added to the platform in the next few years?
Well, coming soon will be our collaborative mode, where you'll be able to share a project with someone else and have feedback and comments and edits, approval flows, things like that. We're also working to integrate with custom content libraries. So some of our partners are major media companies, and they don't want to kind of transfer their files from their custom CMSs over to ours. So we're building platforms to integrate with that. And then I think in next year, we're going to be building tools that let our customers do more things like A/B test their videos and try to automate the performance improvement. So that's a big bulk of our work for next year. So we'll let you know when we get there.
Wish you good luck for that. How do you ensure that that Augie solutions are tailored to meet the unique needs of large businesses while keeping the platform accessible for smaller teams?
Great question. We are basically moving more and more of our advanced features that require larger users into the enterprise tier. So this way, our sort of self-serve tier, which is $40 or $100 US a month, never gets too burdened down by enterprise needs, but always stays very lightweight, easy to use. On the enterprise side, we're focused mostly on making the workflow very, very simple. And so that's sort of how we balance that.
All right, makes sense. So, based on your entrepreneur journey, what advice would you give to, like, you can say, young entrepreneurs or those who are just building their careers, maybe around AI or not AI? Any good piece of advice for them?
I would say one sort of an A and a B, and the A is things are moving faster than they've ever moved.
Oh.
So your idea right now in 3 months, like you have to always be sort of reevaluating everything. Is this still relevant? Is this still current? Did Apple Intelligence or OpenAI or Gemini just put me out of business by, a line of code or something? So I'd say that side of things. And B, is to stay really grounded in solving a real problem, right? Like for example, we don't talk much about generative arts these days, not because people aren't doing it still, people are, but the business use of generative art is fairly limited, right? And so the sort of the narrative has moved on to some other topical areas. So I would say be really focused, like, what problem are you solving, right?
Makes sense. Just to find, we'll definitely share with our audience. Okay, one of the most heated debate these days, like, can AI replace humans, especially in terms of like video creation, the designers, of course. We definitely be needing no designers if we have tools like Augie in the near future. So what do you think? Where do you see humans' contribution in the creative fields like video creation?
Well, I think it's the creative part, right? So I'll give you an example. Augie can write a script for any video. And the truth is that script will be good enough to make a video. And the other truth is most people don't know how to write a script or a narrative. However, once I give you that base script, odds are pretty good you can make it better than it was, right? So we look at it as, again, I'll use the term AI assisted everything makes a ton of sense. Help me. It's the same as like using ChatGPT to write a professional email. It's certainly going to give you a great idea of where to get started. But if you send that email, we both know that the recipient knows that came from chat. Like it's too easy to tell. So we think that like AI is going to be doing that across the board for people left and right. And it's the humans who take the AI's work and make it good, right? I think that's sort of the way we think about it.
Okay, so last thing, anything you would like to say to those like businesses, startups, or professionals who are very intimidated by video production, or maybe they're starting their video marketing? So anything for them?
I would invite everybody to jump into Augie, give our little creation wizard a shot, and wait 3 minutes and see if you feel overwhelmed or not. My hunch is what you'll see 3 minutes later will give you just enough to get going and make something that you can be really proud of. We keep seeing our newest users make stuff on their first session that they could never have made before. And so that's obviously very fulfilling for us.
All right, all right. That's so nice of you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time. Lovely speaking with you about your journey, your like challenges and everything about it. We wish you good luck for all your endeavors.
Awesome. By the way, great questions. Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a
Take
good
care.
day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.